The Helldivers player base has seen enough when it comes to the controversial balance changes and the way the game is currently performing, now taking to Reddit and issuing challenges with an upwards of $1,000 on the line. That's how serious the player base is, signaling to Arrowhead they're not joking anymore. So stick around because I've got it all broken down for you, along with the breaking news that the challenges are now multiplying. Yeah, and if you want to support the channel, you know what to do. If you're on mobile, please swipe right to hype the video, and let's find out what has the player base so riled up inside Helldivers. Saturday has started off with a bang as the community has thrown down the gauntlet. But first, there's a little bit of an interesting development that I need your help in explaining. So, the long and short of our current major order puts us just under 2 days time to go, and we are currently sitting at a net 0 to liberate more planets than we lose. And to be honest, I've seen these territory expansion MOs before, and we as a player base never seem to really gel and gain any traction with them. Instead, we just hop from planet to planet, get a little momentum going, and then promptly lose it all. However, Joel is not making it any easier on us as he continually presses the attack button and forces us to defend planets from formidable and strengthy blitzes, causing us to focus our forces on planets we already held in an attempt to prevent the hostile advance. Of course, this means that we get sucked into another lengthy defense, preventing us from gaining any territory to advance the needle in the MO. Now, the current flavor of the day is Oshaune, as Big O is under attack from the bugs, pushing us into a level 46 defense, up against all of the Into the Untested's greatest hits, including the Rupture Strain, Dragon Roaches, and of course Hive Lords. The good news here is that at our current pace, the Helldivers will pull off a successful defense in about 5.5 hours as of about 12:15 p.m. EST on Saturday, meaning if we can get this one done in that time, we can then shift to another planet and hopefully pull off a liberation to pull that needle to +1 before the major order timer ends. That, though, brings us to the interesting part of today's player counts, because when you look in game, we can see the total counts across PC, Xbox, and PlayStation currently sitting at 107,612, but the current Steam DB counts for PC alone is showing 71,500 divers. Now, what makes this bit of intel intriguing is that ever since Xbox joined into the dives back in 2025, we've seemed to normalize at a 50-50 split between PC and Xbox PlayStation for players, meaning you could log on whatever time of day and check the counts, and out of, say, like 100,000 divers all logged on, 50K would be on PC, 50K would be on console. But something has shifted here, because we're again seeing 70 to 75% splits for PC, while console combined is back down to just 25%. I guess my question here is, what has changed so much on console or PC to either bring those player counts way back up to a large PC majority or way back down to a console minority? Is there something going on right now with consoles that I'm not aware of that's pulling players away? Is it performance? Is it balance? Maybe on consoles, you just need to take a break? I don't know. Let me know by dropping a comment, because I tend to love stats and I love following trend lines, and I'd like to get some actionable feedback from all parties and players involved as to what is either driving up the PC counts or driving away console players. One factor that I just asked about and mentioned is balance, or should we say some of the controversial balance changes Arrowhead has made to the game. For instance, just before we got the Bastion tank and were sent to Cyberstand, we saw them implement a buff to enemy projectiles like bot and Borg rockets versus our Helldiver armored vehicles, including the tank, mechs, and FRV. Now, the exact amount of that enemy buff wasn't disclosed in the initial patch notes, but once the wiki processed the change logs, we found out that those bot rockets and squid mortars had seen their durable damage output tripled, making our already weak Helldiver armored vehicles even weaker. Of course, that's just one example in their controversial balance changes in a tsunami of them, and well, for one Helldivers superfan, they've just seen enough. issuing a challenge to the devs at Arrowhead is highlighted here in this FandomWire article. Helldivers 2 fan puts $1,000 on the line to prove Arrowhead devs can't beat their own game on difficulty 10, with a further sub-headline: a Helldivers 2 fan offers $1,000 if Arrowhead devs can beat difficulty 10, putting the game's controversial balance under the spotlight. Helldivers 2 community might be fueled by memes and over-the-top patriotism, but it takes game balance very seriously. With the current state of balance, one fan has placed a serious $1,000 wager aimed directly at developer Arrowhead. The challenge is simple: complete an entire difficulty 10 operation on Oshaune, the current major order, finishing all objectives across 3 missions exactly as the game currently plays. No tweaks, no special privileges, highlighting that players want chaos, but the fair kind. Just so you can see the original post, I've tracked it down for you. It's up on your screens now, and I'll of course include a link to it down in the video description as well. And now with over 17,000 upvotes, the title from Reddit user 𝗲𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 reads in all caps, "This is a serious offer." And they've used the Dune artwork here that's been Helldiverized with the Hive Lord instead of the worm, and the Helldiver holding the machete instead of Paul Atreides. Down below the artwork, they've actually issued the challenge outlined for Arrowhead, and it says, "I will donate $1,000 USD to a charity of Arrowhead's choosing if they upload a video of 4 of their developers playing an entire operation on Oshaune on difficulty 10 and completing all objectives on all 3 missions on the current MO. No modifications, no funny business. Play on the current state of the game. Show us how it's done and how well the game's balance is. I will provide my full real information, proof of payment, and I'm willing to sign a legally binding contract." Back now to FandomWire, who has some interesting perspectives on what and why this is an interesting challenge. They go on to say, "The wager itself is straightforward. The user demands 4 Arrowhead developers to upload a video of themselves completing a full difficulty 10 operation on Oshaune during the current major order. If they manage to complete it, the fan will donate $1,000 to a charity of the studio's choosing, with proof of payment and even a legally binding contract offered to show good faith." At its core, and I think this is an important point FandomWire is making here, the wager isn't about embarrassing developers, that they don't play their game or anything. It's about accountability and transparency. Players just want reassurance that difficulty 10 isn't balanced around theory, but around reality. Yes, players know that difficulty 10 Super Helldive is supposed to be brutal, but players argue that brutal has drifted into unfair territory. If devs succeed, it sends a powerful message that the game balance is correct. If they fail, it validates weeks of player frustration. Either way, the community gets its clarity and a charity benefits. This is me just weighing in a bit on what FandomWire just said, and throughout gaming history, we've seen this dynamic between the players versus the studio and the developers. And many times it is centered on the studio making changes that the players deem as negatives, and from there the conversation usually turns to the players responding back with a question: do you even play your own game? Now, as someone that has been in contact with dozens of studios and developers over the years, I can tell you that what you as a consumer might expect, that being that the developers of a game surely must play it and are super knowledgeable about all aspects of their game, is not always the case. Sure, you'll have outliers within the studio that are really good at the game, but many times, from what I've seen after working on a game for years and then supporting it after release, developers want to do anything but play their own game. Which sounds nuts, I know. And like I said, studios are always going to have those MLG legit sweatlords working within their walls that are aces at their own game, but they tend to be the exception. Which then jumps us to the next question: why is someone balancing a game, say like in the case of Helldivers 2, for challenge difficulty 10, when they themselves, or many devs on their team, can't handle anything close to that difficulty within the game? In the case of Oshaune, things like attack and AoE desync might not be as noticeable, say like on a level 5 mission versus a level 10, based on the elites spawning on the map and the mob densities. And by the way, that's me just throwing this into the conversation, and I can't give a definitive answer if that is truly the case right now in Big O, but I think you understand what I'm saying here. Is the game tuned for level 7s? Is it tuned for level 10s? Where does the majority of the player base feel is their ideal difficulty? I honestly don't know, but from what I've heard in the past, there's a big spike in 5s through 7s, meaning that's where the normal Helldiver feels comfortable playing this game. I'll come back to some of the more pressing issues in a moment, but there's just a little bit more here from FandomWire, so let's just go ahead and finish it up. They go on to say, what makes this bet stand out isn't just the money, it's what it represents. How true. For many, Helldivers 2's balance has felt like a roller coaster ride for much of its life cycle. A patch improves things, players praise the changes, and then another update swings the pendulum back the other way. That is 100% accurate. Now, FandomWire's also grabbed some of the responses here from Reddit to this $1,000 challenge, and they get a little spicy. Starting off with this one, quote, "Send in the balance team. It's the only way to be sure." Here's another one that says, "I would like to see this too. Be willing to chip in $100 if Alexis does it using the minigun." And finally, there's this one stating, "I want to see the community outreach person who said to lock in and die less, play the game." And finishing up with FandomWire, they say suddenly buffs turn into nerfs, fun loadouts disappear, meta shifts abruptly rather than gradually. This cycle has been very painful and frustrating, to say the least. The $1,000 bet shows just how far players are willing to go to highlight the state of the game. It reflects a community that deeply cares about the game and wants it to thrive. I agree with that. Even if that means calling out balance concerns in dramatic fashion. Essentially, it is a calculated public challenge backed by real money. For a game that's all about showing teamwork and creating shared chaos, the message is clear. The community isn't just joking anymore. They want Helldivers 2 at its best, and they're willing to put $1,000 on the line to prove their point. Now, for the squad I normally run with on our Discord, which, by the way, our Discord is always open to anyone that wants to join. Just check in the video description and pinned comments for the links. Anyways, for our squad, we haven't dove on Big O in a while, but what I do remember are the crazy elite spawns, meaning you'd have a ton of chargers and impalers just kind of galloping all over the battlefield. You'd also have the Rupture Strain, which even now are difficult to handle when you're hosting the session, as the warriors still pop up and enact the stim tax on you, even if they don't kill you outright. And then you've, of course, got the Bile Dragons and their fire attacks that are desynced with the visuals catching you on fire even when not standing in the flames, along with the usual shenanigans you see inside the caves, and of course, the Hive Lords. Overall, though, what I think this highlights is that players like playing Helldivers 2. I mean, I think that's obvious, but they don't enjoy the balancing, especially when it's done poorly. And furthermore, players don't like not being listened to. When they're asked to provide feedback, they provide feedback, and then it's largely, if not entirely, ignored. Would the community have said, absolutely, go ahead, to the tripling of durable damage versus our vehicles just prior to us landing on Cyberstan? No, but Arrowhead did it anyways. Would players have been happy with the secretive changes to fire and status effects when the developers said they would not touch the Coyote? Again, no, and I might add this was done anyways in a roundabout way, with the studio not disclosing it at all to the players. So what it boils down to is a studio constantly trying to push the game in a direction that appeals to the extreme minority of the player base, and then pulling it back to a more normal state when the player counts just plummet and the cycle just kind of continues on and on and on. And just to show you how serious this balancing matter is with the player base and how they're concerned about these controversial changes and how it affects the overall enjoyment of the game and also not being listened to, during the editing of this video, a new second $1,000 challenge was just issued on Reddit by Reddit user Brainstorm and Theory, offering up, as I said, another $1,000 to charity, but they've taken the challenge several steps further with specified loadouts and developer team personnel being called to the field, including Nicholas, 𝗵𝗏𝗍𝗻, Shams Jorjani, and Alexis. So, yeah. This pushback seems to be catching fire quickly among the player base, and I wanted to let you know that I've actually reached out to the dev team via DM with both challenges, and they are confirming it. They have seen them, and the challenge is on their radar. So at this point, as they say, the ball's in their court. Will Arrowhead step up to meet this challenge, or will they try to ignore it? This is where I ask you, my viewers, now to weigh in. Will Arrowhead and his dev team accept the challenge? And furthermore, will they be able to complete it? Drop your opinions and feedback in the comment section below. If you happen to like the video, please consider hitting subscribe and ringing the notifications bell to receive my future upload alerts. If you're on mobile, please swipe right to hype the video. But before I go, I'd like to say thank you to all of my channel members who show up on the daily to support me, my content, and of course the channel. Until the next one, this is Lieutenant Buzz Lightbeer, signing off.